Manchester United shortly, but before we do, let's hear from their former player Gary Neville, who says he's a big fan of the signings that United have made so far, but more needs to be done.
Ruben Amorim is identifying players he does not want in the squad, and to be fair, he's moving them out of the squad. That's a positive. The second thing is, I do like, on paper, the signings of Cunha and Burmo. I think the two signings are good signings yet. There's a couple more needed. I think they need a goalkeeper, they need a centre forward. And I think if they can fill those two positions with decent signings, then United can have a lot. I mean, they have to have a better season than last year. It can't get any worse, really.
Well, it's clear what Neville wants. Dharmesh, for a team that only scored 44 goals in their Premier League season last time around, it's obvious that they needed more firepower, wasn't it? They've brought in Mbeumo, they've brought in Cunha. They're going to bring in more?
Well, big developments this afternoon, because Benjamin Sesko now is emerging as a top target for Manchester United in this transfer window. That's if they bring in a striker. Now, we're told that United have held initial talks with Sesko's club, RB Leipzig, and Sesko's representatives over the conditions of a potential deal. Newcastle United, we've been reporting throughout this transfer window, also interested, but it's thought, as it stands, Sesko's preference is to go to Manchester United. Now, the interest in Sesko is clear. It's being driven by a gentleman called Christopher Neville, who is the recruitment director at Manchester United. He used to be a scout at Red Bull Salzburg, and he's widely credited for bringing Sesko as a 16-year-old to Red Bull Salzburg. Now, United's interest goes back not just this window, but it goes back years, because they've got a long-standing interest in Benjamin Sesko. They've been keeping an eye on his development for a number of years. We were even reporting back in 2022 that United might have tried to sign him. Now, look, while they are looking at a number 9, the focus is on player sales as well. But they have done due diligence, as we've been telling you throughout this window, on a number of strikers. Aston Villa's Ollie Watkins, initial talks have happened between United and Aston Villa. There was also a tentative interest in Chelsea's Nicholas Jackson. However, the prices and the structure for those players, particularly when they come from a Premier League club, have been deemed at too high at this stage. Now, people will say, well, Watkins will probably be cheaper than Benjamin Sesko. But the difference is United might be able to do a better structured deal for Benjamin Sesko over Ollie Watkins. It's thought that Leipzig, at this moment in time, would want around £70 million and more for Benjamin Sesko. But clearly, Manchester United now look like they're prioritising Sesko as a number 9 target if they are to bring in a striker.
And it's easy to see why United want to sign a striker in this transfer window. At the very top of the show, you spoke about them scoring 44 Premier League goals in 38 matches. This is Manchester United, one of the greatest attacking teams that we've seen over the course of the last 25 years or so. And these were the two players it seemed like they were weighing up what to go for, Sesko or Watkins. Clearly there's financial issues with both of these deals. Watkins turns 30 in December. He's more of a proven goal scorer. Look what he's done over the course of the last 2 seasons. He's scored more goals than Sesko. The assists there, especially the season 4 last, he was absolutely crucial in getting Aston Villa into the Champions League with those goal contributions. And you can see his minutes per goal involvement, that's better than Sesko marginally. Sesko better when it comes to minutes per goal. And look at the XG there. His conversion rate is significantly better than Ollie Watkins over the course of the last 2 seasons. Those are the 2 seasons he's been at RB Leipzig. So plus 9.5 XG means he scored nearly 10 goals more than you'd expect based on the chances that have been created for him and the shots he's taken. That's Watkins, who scored 3 more than we'd expect. But he's still got a very healthy conversion rate. Last season, Manchester United's number 9 scored 4 goals in 32 Premier League matches in the form of Rasmus Højlund. I don't think you can blame him entirely. Still a young striker finding his way. But if United can do a deal for a striker, I think most United fans probably feel they need to sign a striker in this transfer window. Though Rasmus Højlund did look quite encouraging the other night against West Ham. There is definitely a player there. The question is, do United go for the finished product in Ollie Watkins? 30 years of age, if it costs between 40 and 60 million pounds, there's no resale value there whatsoever. Sesko, 22, still yet to hit the heights yet, but the ceiling is there. It's enormous. He's going to be one of the best strikers in Europe. Can United get him in this transfer window? They've got a number of number 10s now, haven't they? Now they've got Mbeumo and Cunha. They need someone to finish off the chances. So if they can get a striker in this transfer window, you'd think it would boost their chances of doing something good this season.
He does sound like a really exciting talent, been dubbed the next Erling Haaland as well. OK, so those are the incomings. As for outgoings at United, Luke Shaw has suggested that there are no longer any stragglers in the squad as a result of Ruben Amorim's tough approach. Well, Amorim left some big names out of the club's pre-season tour, didn't he? Alejandro Garnacho, Anthony, Jadon Sancho and Tyrell Malacia as well. Malacia, I should say. They all stayed at home, while Marcus Rashford has, of course, gone on loan to Barcelona. Let's hear from him.
There's no stragglers in this group anymore. I think everyone has to put the team first. He's made that very clear. I think, you know, he's picking players on how he feels will be best for the team, and that's, you know, his choice. And, you know, us as players, we're fully behind him and fully behind on his ideas and what he wants to implement in his team.
Yeah, I think that's a good insight, isn't it, James? Will we see any more departures then from Old Trafford anytime soon? Because they've got players they want to get off their books.
Yeah, I thought it was fascinating hearing from Luke Shaw there. I think he was pointing out the players who are not there right now with United on this pre-season tour, because we know there's 4 players who are training away from the first team, aren't there in the US right now. Alejandro Garnacho, Anthony, Jadon Sancho and Tyrell Malacia. Ruben Amorim suggested last week that none of the players would be sold for a cut price fee and they would be reintegrated if they're not sold. I'm not so sure that's the case. Maybe that was a negotiating strategy from Amorim. I think Garnacho is absolutely key here, because any money United make on Garnacho in this transfer window will represent pure profit, which will give them a huge amount more flexibility in this transfer window. Now, Aston Villa, they've been keen on him, but are understood to be unable to meet the asking price to buy him outright at this moment in time. Chelsea still maintaining an interest, despite the fact they signed Jamie Gittins earlier on this summer, but it remains to be seen if they act upon that. Borussia Dortmund are interested in re-signing Jadon Sancho once again. This would be the 3rd time they've signed him, but I think wages are going to be an issue here. Juventus have also held talks. Napoli may now revisit the chance to sign Jadon Sancho, having missed out on their first choice wide option. He's heading to Nottingham Forest. More on him later in the show. As for Anthony, actually I think he helped his market value somewhat at Real Betis last season. They reached the Conference League final, and Real Betis would like to bring him back, ideally this season. The issue is, I think they feel like a loan is more feasible. That's what their president has been quoted as saying. It is a case with all these players. United would love to do a permanent deal. They'd love to just get rid of these players in a polite way now, because of the wages they're on, because of the amount of money that's been spent on them. If there's a permanent way of getting rid of these players, that would be ideal. If not, you'd be looking at loans with a permanent element attached to that.
Okay. I would just say, like James is explaining there, that the priority for United is to offload these players and to ideally get them on a permanent deal. And we thought that was before they could go back into the market. Now, sequence-wise, that's not necessarily the case. Manchester United, it's all about timing. If, for example, we've been talking about Benjamin Sesko, if that deal presents itself at some point in the next week or so, and they haven't sold any of these players before then, United will still feel that they can do that deal, but they will need some sort of assurance that somewhere along the line some of these players are going to get sold. It doesn't have to be, well, I know you want to come now, Benjamin, but you're going to have to wait because we need to get rid of these players. It's a timing situation. It's a little bit like when Arsenal fans were complaining when they were actually signing players earlier on in this transfer window. Yes, Zubamendi's great. Yeah, Norgard, that's a good signing. But why aren't we signing a striker? Well, sometimes it's the timing. So Manchester United, ideally, yes, make the sales to bring in someone like Sesko, but it doesn't necessarily have to go in that order.
OK, patience.
Indumentaria, la Kings Limited Gold Edition, solo hay 50 unidades de todos los equipos y también puede ser vuestra entrando en kingsleague.pro, así que es los datos a tener en cuenta en cuanto a indumentarias. Gran partido, Gonzalo, Gerard, el que tenemos por delante.
Ojo, ojo, estilo La Bombonera, estadio de River.
Hostia, más minutos de retraso en el inicio, ¿eh? Ya tenemos lío.
Lo llamó Edo, dibujando la parábola sobre la banda derecha, donde en el vértice del área aparece Nadir. ¡Nadir para adentro! ¡Gol! De Nadir Luak que tiene una facilidad pasmosa. Encuentra a Pablo, qué balón para Nadir para el segundo. Se tafa de Cócera, es un golazo. Es un golazo. Señoras, señores, bienvenidos al show de Nadir Lua. Pibe.
El mejor.
Vamos
Haciendo
a ver.
espionaje, ¿eh?
Vaya mierda ha dado, pibe. Va, ya te puedes ir a la cúpula a comer, va.
Tiene que salir Cócera para entregar hacia el centro. Se la regala Coy, le puede pegar Coy para adentro.
Vaya chicha, nano.
¡Gol! De Porcinos Óscar Coy. Pues sí.
Pero es que, señores,
No te lo dije.
Tenemos comodín, ¿cómo lo usamos? Penalti.
penalti.
Venga, será penalti.
Vamos, Cuni.
Puede meter.
A meter en el partido a Cuni. Jordi para adentro, qué golazo.
¡Guau!
¡Dios!
¡Gol!
Eso, dale.
Vamos con Nadir Lua y con Laura Vizcaíno.
Pues sí, Nadir, 2 goles, victoria y a cuartos, enhorabuena.
Sí, sabíamos que el partido iba a ser muy importante porque veníamos de una muy mala dinámica. El equipo ha estado bien, sufríamos defensivamente y creo que hemos estado muy juntitos. Y nada, primer objetivo cumplido.
Os espera Science, rival complicado, imagino.
Sí, empatamos contra ellos y en shootout
Así
perdimos. Ha quedado segundo por algo. Nada, concentración, confianza con nosotros mismos y intentar ganar para el sábado estar en el Wizzing.
Os lo veremos mañana, mucha suerte.